Okay, I'm doing a reply video to Uncivil Law. Okay, Uncivil Law, and he's done a reply video to an open letter from feminists. And this is going to be a two-part series. And in this video, I'm gonna deal with the first 10 minutes of Uncivil Law's reply to the feminists, and in the next video, I'm gonna deal with someone else's reply to the feminists, and they're in complete contrast. So I'm gonna talk about the history of Uncivil Law when it comes to men's issues. So he's done, as far as I know, he's done 2 videos or so on men's issues, one really good, one complete trash. So the first video I noticed of him was him calling Legal Eagle out. So Legal Eagle, who's a complete lunatic, right, did a video defending a scene in a movie, trying to come up with legal arguments for why Captain Marvel was justified in assaulting a male human being. And the movie was cut from the Captain Marvel movie because it was too blatant in its anti-maleness. So Captain Marvel is meant to be one of the most powerful heroes in the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe anyway. And she tortures a male human being and robs him for no reason. She tortures him. She's so much more powerful than this male human being, and she grabs his hand and tortures him. So it's torture. So it's aggravated assault and torture and robbery. And what aggravates it even more, I'm not a lawyer, but even I can figure this out. What aggravates it even more, if superhumans really existed in real life, right, when they commit a crime against a normal human, it would be aggravated because of the vulnerability of the normal human and the power dynamic and the fact that a superhuman is so much more powerful than a normal human. But Legal Eagle tried to justify this torture using legal arguments. So a complete lunatic and unsecular argument, basically. And Uncivil Law, in this video here, ripped him apart. Now, Uncivil Law did a video on selective service, and he was defending selective service for some weird reason, because I think Uncivil Law is actually a trad con. Okay? So he did a video defending selective service, and he mocked MRAs and belittled them in the video. Right? So he did a good video ripping apart a male feminist, Legal Eagle. Then he did a complete 180 and defended misandry and unequal rights for men. Because selective service is slavery enforced on men. Right? Okay? Like, if you could argue that selective service or the drafted is necessary evil to defend the state, that's one thing, but it's not gender neutral, is it? So if it's only applied on men, it's actually the definition of slavery. It's responsibilities without rights, because women have actually got more rights than men in this society, but they've got less responsibilities. So men are actually de facto slaves in American society, at least, because of the selective service, right? But anyway, Uncivil Law did a video recently on the open letter that feminists wrote. And this open letter is a declaration of war against the male sex by the entire feminist movement. It's 140 feminist organisations wrote this letter. So this has debunked once and for all the "not all feminists are like that" meme, because it was always a bullshit meme. All feminists are like that. Okay, every single one of them. If you wear the label feminist, you are like that. Even if you are not hateful, even if you don't do one hateful thing in your life, but you wear the feminist label, you are actually hateful because you're validating the feminist label. So that's enough for us to go, you are just like that. All feminists are like that. And all these fictional good feminists, they don't exist anyway. All of them turn out to be misandrous in the end if you push them hard enough. Every single time. But anyway, I'm going to reply to this video. So let's just get on with this.
Learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you enjoy this legal education content. And today is the day I earned that subscription. For today's story, we are dealing with more Amber Heard stupid.
It's not Amber Heard stupid, right? It's Amber Heard outrage, Amber Heard misandry, Amber Heard man hate. Okay? Don't downplay it. It's not just stupid, right?
And the stupid is particularly hurtful today.
Well, it's particularly hurtful because that's what the aim of this open letter is. You see, feminists have got dual motives. So one motive is to expand female privilege and female power, but that's a secondary motive. Their primary motive is to hurt men in any way they can, strip them of legal rights, disparage them, dehumanize them, and hurt them physically or emotionally. So I drink male tears. 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 Hashtag all men are trash. All men are trash. All men. This is a Twitter hashtag. All men are trash. all men are trash. Look, a woman. All men are trash, right? Uh, I drink male tears. All men are trash. Hashtag kill all men. Kill all men. Kill all men. There you go. This woman is she's an editor of the Huffington Post, and she's still an editor of the Huffington Post. Last time I checked. So you're upset at this, right? On civil law, the feminists are glad they're getting off on it. That's what they want you to do. They want sensitive, humble, everyday men to feel the pain, right? Because men care about women, men worship women, and when women are upset, it hurts men. And when women hate on men, it hurts them even more. And when women turn around and say, "Oh, you're abusive, you harm me, you hurt me," that hurts men as well. It's sadism designed to hurt men. These false accusations that feminists do, this gloating that feminists do, it's designed to hurt men. This is the partial aim of this open letter that feminists have written.
Because a whole group of feminists have come out in support of Amber Heard.
All the major feminist organisations worldwide have come out in support of Amber Heard. It's actually impressive act of coordination, right? It's absolutely amazing. The teamwork of the feminist movement is breathtaking. Actually, that's the one thing I admire them for. They're the ultimate political animals. They're much better at men at this, right? Like, I'm going to invite you now to team up with me and become a men's rights activist. And you're not. I hope you take me up on it, but I doubt you will. I can't. If I could get 200 men to team up with me and coordinate with me online, we could do a lot for men. We could do so much, but it's impossible. It's like trying to organise a herd of cats, right? So women outdo men in collective action.
And not in support of male victims, which is deeply and incredibly annoying.
Well, yeah, well, I'm not annoyed by it because I expect it by now, right? I was annoyed by it at one point when I didn't know any better, when I was still learning about the feminist movement. But I'm angry in the sense that they're getting away with it, but I'm not annoyed by them doing it per se because I expect them to do it. I'm actually annoyed at society for enabling it and letting them get away with it. I'm not annoyed at the feminists. Okay, so let's get on with it.
I am irritated by this.
And I'm actually glad that you're admitting you're irritated by this, and this hurts you emotionally, right? Because too many men posture and gloat and posture about the feminists getting wrecked, the feminists being stupid, using gallows humour, coping, claiming that the feminists are losing, get woke, go broke, all this cope nonsense. At least you're not stuck in that stage, right? This is why I don't think you're completely hopeless, even though you made a bad video on the selective service. Okay? There's still hope for you yet. I know that sounds condescending, but I'm just speaking the truth.
I'm exceptionally irritated by this. Male victims apparently don't matter.
Yeah, male victims do matter to feminists in the sense that feminists want more men to be victims and to suffer and to have less rights. So male victims do matter. They're not just ignoring male victims. They're not just neglecting them. They're making sure that there are more male victims. So what the feminists are doing with this open letter, they're supporting Amber Heard, right? They're lying about Amber Heard, acting like she's a victim, right? So it's pushed back against awareness on domestic violence. Most domestic abuse is committed by women. They're the vast majority of domestic violence abusers. Okay, but in many countries, they operate under the Duluth model of domestic violence, which frames domestic violence as patriarchal and committed by men. And laws get changed based on this model, the Duluth model. Okay, and what this does, this leads to men suffering and being harmed. And in some countries, male victims of domestic violence are more likely to be arrested than their female abusers. And that's a state of affairs that feminists want to keep because they love it. They love it. They want women to be free to abuse men with impunity and not just get away with it, but to turn around and falsely accuse their male victims of being abusers and get them arrested and have their reputations destroyed. That's the aim of the feminist movement. And this is what this open letter is for. Okay.
The only thing that matters apparently is the female victims. And I don't understand it. And
well, feminists hate men. Feminists hate you and me, right? Because you're a man, I'm a man. That's all there is to understand. It's not baffling to understand why Nazis hate the Jews or why the KKK hate black people. Some people just hate other groups of people for no good reason, just because they're hateful. Some people are just hateful, right? You could like try and psychoanalyze it. Say, is it some sort of childhood trauma, or is it some sort of damage in the brain, or what is it, genetics? Who cares? At the end of the day, some people are just hateful, and at the end of the day, the feminist movement just hates men. Period. That's why.
It's very, very annoying. So, okay, let's read this. All right, so here's an open letter that was written by a whole bunch of feminist organizations.
One of the organizations is National Organization for Women, the most powerful feminist group in the world. Right? It's got a charter in every state, so that means a building, at least one building in every state for the organization. Okay, that's how powerful they are. That's how organized they are. National Organization for Women, for example, lobbied to block equal shared parenting. Right? So okay, I'll prove it. Now lobbies to block equal shared parenting bill. Let's go. Right, I think National Organization of Women. Sorry if this slows down the flow of the video, but I just think it's a... So, why does it... Right, so... There's various different search results. Google is very feminist biased. I'm going to do a video on that soon proving it. But this is the number one result. Why does the National Organization for Women oppose the recent shared parenting bill? So this person asks why the feminists blocked it. They lobbied a Republican governor in California, or in some sort of American state. I can't remember what state it was, but he lobbied an American governor in an American state to block the shared parenting bill, and this Republican government listened to them, and it was blocked. And you can find this Reddit post, and it's just feminists rationalizing it. You can read it for yourself. And how they rationalize it, one of the most common tactics is just to call fathers abusive. Oh, fathers are a danger to children. That's one of the tactics to do it. Dehumanizing men. So National Organization for Women signed this open letter. Okay? I'm just pointing out a pattern of behavior here. It's very important.
I'm going to read this, and I'm going to express my disappointment about the dual treatment of how men's pain and women's pain is treated.
Yeah, feminists pretend to be suffering from pain, play the victim falsely to attack men, and women rub off one on the thought of men suffering and feeling pain. That's how feminists deal with the pain between the sexes. Most claims of female victimhood from feminists... Oh, no, all claims of female victimhood from feminists are lies. Every single time. Because I'm going to tell you a little secret, right? If a feminist is actually a victim of a man, she's going to be legitimately too scared to report him. Or she's going to like the violent man, because feminists like violent men. She's going to like him because he's violent and not report him. So feminists will accuse the weak, the man they see as weak or meek, mild and humble, and accuse him of being violent and abusive. That's how it works. And it may sound like an over-the-top generalization, but if you have any experience with feminists interacting with them, you'll figure this out for yourself, right?
I am very annoyed by this. Here is an open letter. An open letter in support of Amber Heard. Where is the support for Johnny Depp?
Well, he's male, isn't he? So there's going to be no support for him. Men should be far long past the stage where we're asking this question rhetorically or sarcastically. We're long past this stage. I know it's a rhetorical question, but we should be long past this stage. It's like asking, why aren't the Nazis helping the Jews as well as the Aryans? It's like asking that, because it's an absurd question, even rhetorically on the face of it. It doesn't have to be asked anymore, right? We're long past the point from experience where we're going to be confused by this. Feminism is a hate movement, and it always has been a hate movement. Feminists were marching in the 70s calling men pigs. When Andy Warhol was shot by that radical feminist, the feminist movement supported her, shooting him. Okay? There's many examples, right, of this. This has been going on for decades.
Where's the support for the violence against him?
There is support for violence against Johnny Depp. They're supporting the violence against him. They want violence to be done against him because he's male, right? They want women to be able to beat and abuse, slander, stalk, and harass men with impunity. Okay? All accusations of stalking, you will deal with this in your video later. It's feminist projection. But let's get on with it.
These feminist groups apparently have no need for any of that. The open letter is fairly short. It says 5 months ago, and also makes you wonder why they're writing this now. And there's an article that we're going to talk about also asking that question, but okay. 5 months ago, the verdict in the defamation trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard deeply concerned many professionals.
That professionals is a euphemism for feminist ideologue. So feminists do this a lot. They pretend to be neutral, third-party professionals, right? When they're just feminists. They do this all the time, okay? So, and feminists, I've noticed some feminists, they're starting to be less overt about being feminists. They use dog whistles, they use euphemisms, but they're feminists all the same.
In the field of intimate partner and sexual violence, well, if it was concerned because of the obvious intimate partner and sexual violence that was occurring against Johnny Depp, then sure, but that's not apparently the concern.
Also, this group has zero concern for the interpersonal violence that Amber Heard was committing against her ex-wife. Zero concern. So this is not about overprotectiveness. This is not being hypersensitive about the safety of women, right? Because that's a mistake I used to make as well. I used to assume, they're being hypersensitive about their safety, they're being neurotic, they're being paranoid. No, it's not that at all. They're pretending to be scared, they're feigning fear, but it's all about attacking men. Okay? So if a woman beats the shit out of another woman, they don't give a fuck, right? So there is no hypersensitivity on the safety of women here. And men, I'm even feminist women. There's many women who get into high conflict, abusive relationships where most abuse is provoked by them or done by them, right? And they get off on these high conflict relationships, right? Women in relationships are actually more high conflict than men, right? So women are not scared of abusive men. They're not at all. Okay, they're completely fearless. I have to make that completely clear, and it's actually obvious if you have any experience with women in the real world and you observe them.
As many, including A.O. Scott for the New York Times, have noted, the vilification of Miss Heard and ongoing online harassment of her and those who voice support of her have been unprecedented both in vitriol and scale. Dude, what is your problem?
Their problem is they're just lying so they can smear men and support an abusive woman who's harmed a male victim. And they're scared that there's going to be a narrative change and there's going to be more awareness about abusive women who abuse men. They're absolutely scared of this because the domestic violence industry grants feminists a lot of power, a lot of prestige, a lot of money, a lot of funding, and it gives them a platform. This is their primary motive, to attack men, to strip them of rights. Okay, let me give you an example. In Europe and in the UK, there was something introduced by a right-wing Tory government called domestic violence protection orders. In the UK, it was introduced by left-wing governments in other European countries. It didn't matter, left or right, they both introduced this law, something called domestic violence protection orders, and it violates property rights of men. So all a woman has to do is accuse a man of domestic violence. Police are not even obliged to investigate the accusation, and they can kick the man out of his own home for 30 days. It's in the UK as a law now, but it came from other European countries. Okay, so yes, that's the aim of the feminist movement. They want to pass domestic violence laws to strip rights from men and to harm men, get rid of due process rights. That's it. If you see the pattern, you connect all the dots, you'll figure out the motive of the feminist hate movement. The feminist hate movement.
What is your problem? I would imagine that none of the people who signed on to this letter have any problem vilifying men who are abusive.
I'm just going to be a little bit pedantic because this is actually an important distinction. It's not 140 people, it's 140 groups. If it's people, they're representing different feminist groups. I saw the symbols on the open letter showing what group supported the letter. It's 140 groups. This is a big distinction because it shows you the broad support that this open letter has. Okay? This is the entire mainstream feminist movement internationally supporting this. All feminists are like that. All of them. Every single one.
I would imagine none of them have any problem vilifying men who are abusive.
And they have no problem vilifying men who are abuse victims as well. They'll just call them abusers. They'll say he deserved it. Oh, like, for example, Melissa Alexandria case, right? She was a violent woman who shot at at the head of her own ex-husband in front of her kids and tried to kill him, put a bullet in his head, and she lied and claimed he was abusive, even though she was the one arrested and charged with domestic violence against him. And she was actually stalking him and following him and going to visit him against injunctions, right? The feminist movement, she got 20 years in prison, and the feminist movement protested the sentence, and she got released a few years later. Okay? That's how the feminist movement works.
And taunting them and mocking them and deriding them and exposing them. Why is it such a problem when it's a woman who does it?
Oh, so that's the thing. The only thing Amber Heard received online was mocking. Just mocking, that's it.
Is it a problem when men are vilified? Is it a problem when men are harassed?
It's not a problem at all. It's what the feminists want. They get off on it, right? It's like asking hunters, is it a problem when you shoot deer? Or aristocrats, is it a problem when you hunt foxes with your hounds? That's what they're the predators, and men are their prey, right? You are their prey. I am their prey. All men are their prey. They're malicious, lizard-brained psychopaths, and they're out to get you. Let me emphasize that. They're out to get you. If they can get you and make you suffer, they will make you suffer. It's just as simple as that.
Who engage in domestic violence? If not, why is it a problem when it happens to a woman? Why are women special in this domain? Is it right? Is it virtuous to mock, deride, vilify, harass a male perpetrator of domestic violence? If so, why is it wrong to do those things to Miss Heard?
Feminists are not interested in virtue. Okay? They're not interested in virtue. Amber Heard was not harassed, as far as I can see. We could just take those accusations of harassment as being false. Okay, there's a YouTuber called the Umbrella Guy, and it's highly likely that the Amber Heard cult, people linked with Amber Heard, swatted him. That Umbrella Guy was swatted for covering the Amber Heard case. And swatting is actually a form of attempted murder. It's when people falsely phone the police and say there's a man with a gun at that person's address, and the SWAT team go over to arrest them and pick them up. And there's been cases where men have been shot over swatting. So it's an attempted murder attempt. Okay? So these Amber Heard fans, the cultists, they're the ones who actually harass people. Okay? And recently, Amber Heard fanatics, lunatics, have actually been stalking and harassing celebrities online who've shown support for Johnny Depp, like Jamie Lee Curtis, for example. Okay?
Because my woman? And I dispute that the harassment has been unprecedented in vitriol and scale. I dispute that.
Yeah, because if you act up and you're a public figure and people are laughing and mocking at you, that's not harassment. Okay? That shows the level of entitlement that feminists have. They think they can control the thoughts and behaviour of far party onlookers. You're not allowed to think bad thoughts about the female goddesses. That's how feminists think. This is how authoritarian feminism actually is. Feminism is the original hate movement. but it's a hate movement tolerated and enabled by society.
I think many men have had more vitriol and scale, but apparently it's unprecedented because it's happening to a woman or something. I don't understand. Much of this harassment was fueled by disinformation, everyone's favorite word, misogyny, because it doesn't mean anything.
Perfect insight. Perfect insight. I absolutely agree. The word misogyny doesn't mean anything. It's just a smear word. And as far as I'm concerned, the word misogyny doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. So there might be hatred against women, but hatred against women is not enabled. It's not tolerated. It's not in the mainstream, and it's very rare. Right? There's very few men who actually hate women as a collective. Okay, it's very, very rare. Like Jack the Ripper hated women, so he chopped them up. Ted Bundy hated women, so he chopped them up. Right, those are the few rare examples. Serial killers are about the only group of people who actually hate women. Right, serial killers who target women, they're about the only group who actually hate women. That's it. Okay, there's no such thing as misogyny. I get called an extremist for saying that, but I'm not. The word is so watered down that it's meaningless. The word becomes invalid. I reject the word misogyny. 100%.
Not anymore. Misogyny might have meant something once long, long ago.
Maybe in the 19th century, but not in the 20th century. Not in the 20th century.
But whatever it might have meant once, long, long ago, it no longer means anything. It's just an arbitrary label that's applied whenever we want to shut someone down.
It's a thought-terminating cliche. It's a nebulous, vague smear label to dehumanise men. The term misogyny is actually what I'll class hate speech. It's hate speech. If you falsely label someone a woman hater, to shut them down, to shut them up, men who go, oh no, I've seen men raising their own concerns without even attacking feminists or attacking women or even mentioning women. They raise their own concerns and they still get called misogynist. To shut them down. So the term's hate speech. It's hate speech 100%.
Where's the ink spilled over the misandry? Doesn't exist.
Misandry is not real from the point of view of feminists. You know, feminists go, misandry is not real, it doesn't exist, and they'll turn around and say, yeah, but men deserve misandry because us women are oppressed and abused, so they deserve it. That's the feminist view on misandry, as contradictory as it is.
What's misogyny? Anything that apparently is negative towards women.
No, it's not even that. Misogyny. I've seen men who worship women and say worshipful things about women, and they call that misogyny as well because it's patronising. Oh, you're worshipping us too much. That's misogyny. It's patronising. It's infantilising. That's misogyny. This is how ridiculous the word misogyny is, and that's why it's completely invalid. Men who worship women are still called misogynists, right? Men who do not say one critical thing about women are called misogynists by feminists as well. It doesn't mean anything at all.
Apparently. It's a meaningless word. And it's a word that kind of irritates me at this point every time I hear it.
Well, like I said, let's go back. Man-tears. There you go. Back to the man-tears. I drink man-tears. There you go. I drink man-tears. Look, you can buy a mug. You can buy a shirt. Man-tears. Forever bathing in your man-tears. 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 Mel-tears. Mel-tears. Man-tears. Mel-tears. Mel-tears. Can you imagine white nationalists sold a mug called I Drink the Tears of Black People? Can you imagine that? Black tears. Can you imagine that? I bathe in black people's tears. I bathe in male tears. This is a project. Hatred of men is commodified in the West. Right? Okay.
Because it's being used as a weapon to silence criticism. Much of this harassment was fueled by disinformation, misogyny, biphobia.
Oh, look, I want to. Look, they're trying to defend feminism. Elizabeth, feminism isn't an organisation. There's always been disagreement. Don't toss the baby with the bathwater. So that's not all feminists are like that nonsense. So 140 feminist organisations signed that letter, the entire mainstream media has pumped out article after article defending Amber Heard, and this concern troll is saying not all feminists are like that. These people have got to be shunned and mocked and blocked and banned, quite frankly. These people are part of the gaslighting. All feminists are like that. Every single one of them. And Raise again, you are like that. You are those feminists. You are a feminist ally and enabler. You are one of their foot soldiers. You are a man hater. The history of feminism has shown lies, disinformation, and man hatred since the early 20th century at least. And there's quotes of feminists being hateful in the 19th century, and there's examples of feminists getting laws changed in their favour in the 19th century as well, like the Tender Years Doctrine. Feminism has always been a hate movement. Feminism has always been like that, and there's been no disagreement on their man hate. The only disagreement feminists have is on how to conduct their man hate operations against men. That's it. They disagree on tactics, not on their hatred of men. All feminists are like that, Rise Again. How dare you gaslight us? How dare you?
Was it? Was there a lot of biphobia? What?
I'll explain the biphobia thing. Okay. Amber Heard was a wife beater. She was a legitimate wife beater. She beat her ex-wife, black and blue. Right? He abused her. She terrified her. Right? So what people are doing, they'll point out that Amber Heard beat her ex-wife. She has a pattern of history of abuse, and she has a pattern of history of abuse of abusing women. So these feminists in the open letter are calling people point that out biphobic. So pointing out that a woman, a lesbian bi woman, is beating her wife or beat her wife, that's biphobic, right? That's all that is, by the way.
And monetized social media environment where a woman's allegations of domestic violence and sexual assault were mocked for entertainment.
So the gaslighting, like her accusations were proven to be false, disbelieved. There's voice recordings of her admitting to abusing Johnny Depp, right? It's been proven, right? The evidence was there. She admitted it herself, okay? And the feminists are just gaslighting and lying with their disinformation or misinformation, or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, that's it. It's just gaslighting to create confusion.
Because they were stupid. They weren't real. This is literally, at this point, the epitome of believe all women. That's what this open letter.
Well, it's actually not believe all women, actually. I'm not being pedantic here, because, again, if a woman accuses another woman of abusing her, the feminists don't care, one way or the other. It's not believe all women. Believe all women when they attack and smear men. That's what they mean, right? If a woman turns around and goes, oh, I actually like men, I don't think they're abusive, the feminists will just call her a pick-me. They won't believe her then, will they? No. So it's not believe all women, it's believe all women who smear and attack men. Because that's the motive of feminists. It's very simple, and a lot of people are baffled by this because it's so simple and lizard brains. But once you figure it out, it's so obvious. Feminists hate men. The motive is to attack men. That's it. Everything else is secondary.
A woman said it, therefore she cannot be mocked. Ever.
There's been cases of feminist women spewing hatred, violence, death threats against men, and when she gets mocked and gets pushed back and gets some abuse back, the feminists will defend her as a victim. And what they'll do, they'll raise the context of the pushback. She'll get the pushback, but they won't show the context of the pushback. They won't say the outrageous things she has said, right? That's very, very common, by the way.
This is the epitome of believe all women. When they say believe all women, they actually mean it. Because the only way that
a lot of things, feminists lie all the time. They say so many falsehoods. But when they say what they want to do to men and how much they hate them, feminists are telling the truth there, right? Feminists in the UK have pushed to close all female prisons. And we've got current effort, and there's guidelines telling male judges to give women lesser sentences and avoid sending them to jail. There's been countless cases of women committing violence, maiming men, using weapons, killing men, right? Shooting men in the back of the head while they're sleeping in the UK, USA, Europe, right? Just killing men, outright killing them. Sometimes falsely claiming that they were raped and abused and getting let off with no evidence. And sometimes the women just go, I was angry, I was upset, I was jealous that he was having an affair. And they still get a lesser sentence or get let off and don't even get jailed. Countless examples. This is what feminism is. Marginalised men, women who have the right to kill and abuse them.
This makes sense is if women's accusations are never mocked. Because if Amber Heard isn't worthy of mockery, I don't know what woman would be.
No woman is worthy of mockery in the eyes of feminism. Okay? No woman who's anti-male and attacks men can be mocked. The only women that can be mocked, and it's very mild mocking compared to what men get, the only women that get mocked are women who are deemed pick-me's. That's it. That's the only mocking that's allowed. And there's a limit to how much they can attack those women as well, because they go after men much more.
So the only conclusion can be that no woman and her accusation is ever worthy of being mocked.
Accusations against men. They don't give a fuck about a woman accusing another woman. They don't care, right?
Why? Why do women get this special treatment?
Because feminism is the OG hate movement. That's why. And they hate men.
Why do women get this special treatment that men do not get? Where is the refusal to mock men for their accusations? Where is the ink for Johnny Depp and the abuse he clearly suffered?
Well, feminists want him abused. They love it. They get off on it.
Also, disinformation.
I just want to point out one thing. I'm being very repetitive on purpose. I'm trying to emphasize this point and drill it into people's heads. I'm hoping someone comes across this video who's actually new to these issues. I want to drill this into their heads. What's going on here? What feminism actually is? Because like I just showed in that comment, there's people still trying to defend feminism, even after this open letter from 140 feminist organizations. People are still trying to defend feminism. Okay. Now, there's a lot of false consciousness about feminism. Oh, feminism was a noble movement, but it went off the rails. It used to be good in the past. It used to address legitimate women's issues. No. Feminism has always been a hate movement. Always. Always. Because if you look at the history of women, the state, and men in general, when women have issues and have demands, they have requests, the state and men will always address them and fix them. Always. Always. That's the history of society and women. When women wanted the tender years doctrine, when they wanted the control of the family unit in the UK, they asked for it and they got it right away. That's the history of feminism and women. Oops, I muted it by mistake.
Watched every minute of that trial. I don't know how much more informed I could possibly be.
Well, the thing is, they don't care. They want to gaslight you, sideline you, and bypass you. So this letter was promoted by the feminist mainstream media. All these anti-Johnny Depp articles were published by the mainstream media. So they're just trying to drown out the truth by promoting their false narrative. And in most cases, the feminist movement largely succeeds. I'm not going to watch any more of your video on civil law. I think I've watched enough. But I'm just going to point some things out now. Okay? So, by the way, in the rest of the video, Uncivil law admits that this is misandry and there's such thing as female privilege. And he's right. So, I want to point out what the feminist movement's trying to do with this Johnny Depp case. And it may look stupid to onlookers who don't understand how feminism works. And it may look stupid because it's failing largely. But this is actually a tactic that feminists have pulled countless times, and they've gotten away with it. All right, there's been countless cases in the UK where they've lied about male victims, or they lied about men falsely accused of rape, or they've lied about something involving men and women, and they've largely gotten away with it. And the society's view and narrative of it is based on the mainstream media's and feminists' view on it. Like most people don't know the detail of the Ched Evans rape case. Right, and why he was charged with rape and what happened there. And most people don't know that he actually appealed his sentence and he won his appeal. And that he's still getting stalked by feminists protesting him. Most people don't know about the Cyprus rape case, what really happened there. A feminist paedophile was soliciting sex from teenage boys and she falsely accused him of rape. People don't know the details about that because of the mainstream media. Okay? The only reason it failed in this case, the feminist falsehood failed in this case, was because Johnny Depp was too famous and he had too many female fans backing him. This is why this failed. And the alternative media and the internet media picked up on it and ran with it after the Daily Mail published the voice phone recordings between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. This is why this has failed. But this tactic that feminists are doing right now has succeeded every single time in the past in other cases. This is actually the first time this has failed, actually, from what I can remember, from what I can see. Now, uncivil law, you mocked MRAs who are fighting to get rid of selective service, the draft for men. Men in the USA are forced into selective service for their voting rights and welfare rights. That they get forced to sign this when women don't. Okay, you can't complain about unfairness in this regard and support unfairness in another regard. Even if you don't personally care about selective service one way or the other, on principle, if you're against unfairness against men, you just have to support it. You have to admit that you was wrong on this and change your mind. Okay, like there's certain issues, men's rights issues, I don't particularly care about on an emotional level, but I still support them on principle. Okay, I support all unfairness against men in regards to gender relations between men and women. I want to get rid of all unfairness on principle. Okay, if you let unfairness stand against men, you set a precedent and it will spread into other areas. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to contact me on YouTube, send me a comment, and I'll try and get in contact with you on Discord, and you can try and support my men's rights efforts. You can try and support the Pro Male Collective. I'm sending you that invitation, right? I doubt you'll ever run with it, but there it is. I'm willing to work with men who are willing to fight for their rights. And I'm not willing to get sidetracked in stupid left versus right politics. I'm willing to work with almost anyone, but not anyone. There's some people who are too crazy or too counterproductive to work with, but I'm willing to work with people I disagree with, politically and personally, as long as their intentions are true. So, uncivil law, you've just found out what the feminist movement is all about. Okay, that open letter is the most blatant, overt declaration of war that feminists have made in recent history. They've declared war against the male sex before in the past, right? But this is the most centralized, coordinated declaration of war that feminists have made from what I can think of. This is 130 feminist groups declaring war against the male sex. They're basically saying male victims of abuse to shut up and take the abuse, and male victims who speak up are the real abusers. Okay, that's me finished, over and done. Or over and out.